DESIblitz.com.
Hi, I'm Jemima Khan. I'm the writer and producer of What's Love Got to Do With It, and you're watching me on DESIblitz.com.
I used to think that I was scared of being with the wrong person, but now I realise that I'm scared of being with the right person.
Jemima, thank you so much for joining us today in Birmingham. It's a pleasure to have you. So first of all, what's love got to do with it? Everyone's loving it, everyone's talking about it. We just wanted to ask you first and foremost, what made you come up with the idea for this movie?
I lived in Pakistan with my ex-husband, as is pretty customary in Pakistan. I lived with my ex-husband's family, so his father, his sisters, their husbands, their children, in a big joint family household. And his family were pretty conservative, so they'd all had arranged marriages. And ours was the only marriage in his family history that was not arranged. The only divorce as well, I might add. So I went, I guess, with the same preconceived ideas around that it had no place in the modern world, as a practice, and that it was outdated. And I went there and I actually genuinely saw some very, very happy arranged marriages, particularly the ones that had morphed into what they called assisted marriage, which was essentially an introduction done by made by your parents or the people who kind of know you best, love you most. And I came back age 30, and a lot of my friends were struggling to kind of find the right person, have kids and whatever. And so it started as a conversation, like, what would happen if you had an arranged marriage? Who would your parents choose? Would it work? And from there, I thought, actually, that kind of may be an interesting film. Like, if I hadn't had my backstory, what would have happened if I had kind of not found the right person or whatever, and I'm in my 30s? Is there any circumstance under which, I'd go, okay, give it a go. Introduce me to some people. And, the aunties would all say, like, simmer then boil. You need a companion, not a clique. And it's all about compatibility and a good match rather than, chemistry and love at first sight and all these things that we see in more traditional rom-coms and, which I grew up on. And so it's just, I was interested in exploring that as an idea.
Mm-hmm. And in terms of when you were writing the characters, did you have any of the actors in mind, or was it kind of something?
Well, it depends which. Mostly no, although I did write the part particularly for Asam Chowdhury, but that was because I had a female character playing that role, and my kids were massive Chabadi G fans, and they were like, "Why have you not got Chabadi G in the film? Why haven't you got Asam in the film?" And I, as he said, slipped into his DMs, begged him to play a part that actually didn't exist. And so I did write that for him. And other than that, it took such a long time. The film, it took me 10 years to get made. And over that time, everyone's ages changed and whatever. So not really, no. But of course, that's mainly that I didn't want to be presumptuous and think that Lily James and Emma Thompson would want to be on my film. So it's amazing. Shabana Azmi and Emma Thompson are this incredible matriarchal pairing, and Sajal Ali and Lily James are they're another pairing that are just so each other's match. And Shazad Latif is really the star of the show. I mean, I'm particularly thrilled with the casting of the film.
That's amazing. Also, in terms of your director and your collaborator, Shekhar Kapoor, what made you choose him to assist you?
Well, he'd worked with Working Title before, which was the production company which made this film. He's very well known for two things. One is making very cinematic productions. So it's for what he does is very much aimed for the big screen, and this was going to have a cinematic release. It wasn't for television, and he wasn't the normal rom-com director because he doesn't really do comedy. I mean, he's kind of uninterested in comedy. But for me, that was really interesting because I think the comedy's on the page, and what he did was give it he's very good with emotion, and he's also very good with female leads. And he brought, I think, a depth and truth to the story that might not have been the case if we'd gone for a more broadly comedic director.
So obviously you've mentioned the production company. You also have your own production company, Instant Productions. Could you tell us a little bit about your ambition behind your company?
I set up a company about, I can't remember, 10 years ago, and I mainly produce documentaries and television for the US and the UK, because we're a tiny company, so it means I have to be completely across every project. It has to be something that I am drawn to, or that resonates with me personally. For example, we did a documentary series called The Case Against Adnan Syed, which was about a miscarriage of justice in the US, an American Pakistani kid who was put in jail age 17, literally because of American Islamophobia. I mean, a cultural specialist came in and said, they do honor killings, it must be him. And for that reason, he spent pretty much his whole life in jail. And as a result of our documentary, episode 5 is coming out this year, where he was released, and the episode 5 will be about the release. The reason why I was drawn to that story was that my son was exactly the same age when I started that project. He was 17, British, Pakistani, but definitely the same thing could happen to him. Quite often I'll be drawn to a project, and then later on, like the Monica Lewinsky story, for example, with the impeachment, we did the documentary, and then we did the television series based off that called Impeachment. And the reason why I don't think I realized at the time why I'd been so drawn to the story, but then later on, and when Monica became a friend of mine, we realized that we had both been threatened with, there were so many parallels, we'd both been threatened with jail by hostile political players in the country that we were in order to bring down the powerful political man that we were both associated with. And it had happened at the same year, the same time, when we were the same age. And I think being used as a kind of political pawn and having a lot to contend with at a very young age, and living a kind of prematurely grown-up existence, dealing with issues that other people aren't grappling with in their early 20s. I think that I have an affinity with her for that reason, but I didn't necessarily realize that when I took it on. It was sort of subsequently that I started to unpick all the similarities.
Yeah, so it's safe to say that it tends to be things that mean something to you. You like to focus on those kind of things.
Yeah, I can't spend that much time on something that doesn't mean something to me personally. I find everyone's time is limited, and so I choose to spend it on something that really feels meaningful.
Yeah, so you've done a lot of heavy themes, and obviously this is a lot more light-hearted.
Yeah.
What made you do something a little bit more on the casual, more light-hearted side?
यहाँ रहना तो ऐसे ही है जैसे बहुत बड़े कोठे पर.
The wedding's in Pakistan.
You're so fully signed up to this.
You're forgetting I've seen it work.
As I said, I wanted to show a slightly surprising Pakistan and have, I definitely didn't want any Pakistanis as the baddies in my film. I definitely didn't want any terrorists. I wanted to make something for the big screen, and so I wanted it to be fabulous and, full of life and laughter. I also think that you can say something meaningful even with laughs. I think behind the laughs there's a message, and I think that I think it was Freud who said a joke is just the truth with a smile, and sometimes that can deliver a more meaningful message more impactfully, I think, if people don't feel like they're being hammered over the head with it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I can say as a Pakistani, I definitely appreciate the positive representation, because it's not often we get that in the mainstream, so thank you for that.
You.
But also, you've obviously mentioned you've lived in Pakistan for a very long time. Can you tell us some of the things that you really liked about Pakistan and things you didn't like so much?
Politics.
Yeah, no one does.
But I think it's the same everywhere in the world. I mean, arguably it can get dirtier in Pakistan. I found the scrutiny that was part of being, even by association living a political life, difficult. But I really loved the people, and I found so much kind of warmth and hospitality and kindness from people generally. Because people are always asking, well, why do you still like Pakistan after all the political shenanigans and everything that happens and the protests outside your mum's house? But I do see that as totally separate. I see that as, that's the nature of politics. It's politically driven, it's an agenda. or my experience and my opinion is it doesn't reflect, you know, the vast majority of people that I came across. And then obviously, like, Pakistan is such a beautiful country, and it's so unknown and unexplored to people outside of there. Like, you know, those mountainous regions in the north are, I think they're like a wonder of the world. And also, there's so much talent in Pakistan. There's, you know, I'm trying to set up a fund or a mentorship scheme to try and help young filmmakers in Pakistan who don't necessarily have access to contacts and outside. Because it's fine if you've been educated abroad, then you can probably find your way and get, you know, but for those who haven't got that, there's so much talent. So I'm trying to have conversations about how to help those talents get their kind of creative output appreciated and seen and funded and all of that stuff. I haven't quite worked it out yet because I've been a bit busy with this, but that's a next challenge.
I mean, that sounds incredible. On a much lighter note, could you tell us why you think people should go and watch your movie?
I think you should go and see the film to have a good night out and be entertained and have fun, and hopefully you will laugh and cry, and maybe in the process, if you are not British Pakistani or of Pakistani heritage, you might learn something a little bit about the country and, yeah, have a few previously held ideas challenged.
Oh, is that Grindr? Is there anyone we should meet?
No. I'm getting married.
You are?
Who's the lucky lady?
Don't know yet.
What do you mean?
I'm getting an arranged marriage. Well, assisted marriage. That's what we're calling it these days.
Dare I ask, what about love?
You grow to love the person you're with.
What, like Stockholm Syndrome?
So, your ideas for your next film?
I could follow my childhood friend to marry a stranger chosen by his parents.
My big fat arranged wedding.
Meet the parents first.
Love contractually.
Huh.